brothers and sisters and lovers. In God's name we live, in God's name we serve, and in God's name we shall perish and die. Today, I am fortunate to have Jane Fendelman. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah, that was perfect.
And she is just an amazing person. I have never met her in person, but I have been basically following her on Facebook, and I see so much great information. And she's an animal lover, and I think she's a dance trainer now. I just saw that you won an
I
excellence award.
I do I do a lot of dancing. I'm not a trainer, but I do um especially after I had cancer 19 years ago. I started taking my dancing more seriously and started
Wow.
competing back then. And then in 2005, I had to have a total ankle fusion in my left ankle and my first lumbar fusion, and then recovered and went back to dancing. And then 2 years ago, I had my second and going up higher lumbar fusion and my a third spinal fusion, a C spine fusion in my neck, and finally got back to dancing. So um, I did. I do compete. I do showcases. I love dancing. It makes my soul sing.
Wow, you're quite a warrior. Just exactly the kind of people I like to talk to on this podcast. Really quickly, if you would like to introduce people to who Fendelman is as a being, you know?
As a being, um, you mean like my heart and soul, or my
Yep, yep. Your
calling?
affiliations politically, personally, if you have what's
Oh, yeah.
pronouns, you know,
Oh,
how do you identify in life with everything?
oh, got it. That's a great question. Um, I've been working as a counselor for the last just about 30 years, which is certainly my calling. I do individual, couples, and family therapy. I was just awarded for the 6th year in the row top marriage counselor in Phoenix,
Oh, wow.
which I know it's always I I don't know. It's always so surprising to me. I'm like, really? How do people even know about me? But I'm humbled and honored by that, and I love helping people connect. And I tend to be very open-minded.
Hmm.
I tend to consider as many sides of a thing as I'm able to, um, usually open to hearing different viewpoints.
Hmm.
And politically, I was raised as a Democrat. My mom was a Democrat through and through, what you would probably call a bleeding heart liberal.
Hmm.
And then I moved to Arizona after college when I got my undergrad degree when I was like 21 years old. And within a few years, I changed to a registered Republican.
Oh,
I was Republican, a registered Republican for many years.
uh-huh.
And even though I never voted straight down party lines ever, always voted for the man. And more recently, there's been women candidates, which
Right.
is so funny to me that it's taking us this long to get over the suppression and subjugation of women. That's so funny to me because I'll be 64 next month. Well, wait, is this September 1st? Holy cow, it's September 1st.
Yeah.
This is my Beatles birthday. So this is my when I'm 64 birthday
Hmm.
month. So I'll be 64. So I was alive and 10 years old during the second big women's movement. The first was, of course, in the 20s and 30s.
Uh-huh.
So it's so surprising to me that we're back here. So anyway, so for a long time I was a registered Republican, and then more recently with all of the even though I did vote for Obama,
Hmm.
which that was a huge blessing because I didn't realize he was going to create health insurance that I was going to be able to utilize to. I'm self-employed with pre-existing cancer, so I could
So
not get.
Obamacare helped you a lot.
Oh God, yes, because
Pre-existing conditions. Yeah.
I couldn't get good health insurance. And
Mhm.
when my spine was breaking down, I was in pain all the time. And so
Yeah.
much that I researched euthanasia a lot
Mhm.
because of all the pain. And then
Oh.
Obama came into office.
Mhm.
He modified insurances, health insurance, and I was able to get good health insurance, and I was able to get spinal injections and help for my spine. And I was finally able to minimize my pain. And then when Obama went out of office and Trump came in, the first thing he did was begin to dismantle Obamacare. And suddenly I could no longer get my spinal injections, which
Oh,
managed the pain. And I got into so much pain. You'll see if you ever look at my YouTube channel,
hmm,
because a lot of those videos I did while Trump was in office, and they're just, inspirational videos or,
right.
whatever. A client would say, you need to talk about this. Can you make a video on this? And I'd go, sure. And, but you'll see in a lot of those videos, I'm wearing wigs, all different kind of wigs. And it's because while Trump was in office, I got into so much pain and could not get spinal injections and get out of pain and get good doctors and service.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing about America, I swear.
Yeah, I was in so much pain for so long that the majority of my hair fell out.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
warrior you are. What a warrior. Through and
But
through. Like
when,
I had no clue actually. I am just finding it out and it's affecting me because all the kind of painful stuff you can go through, you have already basically fought through it and won, you know?
yeah,
So very, very much respect. I was not expecting. I was thinking about talking about something completely different, but oh
thanks.
my God. So, did faith or spirituality had anything to do in your fight through all this hardship?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then I have to say, while I was seeing a lot of the uh, what's it called?
Hmm.
Conspiracy theories, and the direction that the Republican Party was going, I registered again and re-registered as a Democrat after all these years.
All right.
Re-registered back as a Democrat, but spiritually, um, I love the expression. I used to be. I used to think I was a human being having a spiritual experience, and then I remembered I'm spirit having a human being experience.
Wow. Wow. What a great, great line there. I hope people can connect to it. So you
Yeah.
believe in reincarnation?
Um, I heard something once that Deepak Chopra said about reincarnation. He said that um, we all lived and are living every life, and that our perception is that it's happening in a linear manner because we live on a timeline when we're
All right.
in the skin. But he said, really, spiritually speaking, there is no there's no time. There's no time. And even Einstein proved that time is relative and it
Also, right.
doesn't
Yes.
exist in a static manner, that it,
Mhm.
fluctuates and changes. So so Deepak Chopra says, how people say, in my last life I was Cleopatra.
Right.
And he goes, why was everybody somebody famous? But he says we're all energy, and spirit is just a part of every other spirit. Everything, it's all one thing.
Right.
And so we're all living every life. And I had a client once tell me, long time ago, I had a client, uh, probably in the beginning of my practice, somewhere in the first year, so just about 30 years ago. And this young man came in for his first session, and he told me what he wanted to work on. And then he said, but I need to tell you about something that happened to me that colors everything I see and think and feel, my entire experience, um,
Right.
on this earth. And he said he had a um, near-death experience. I can't remember what happened to him.
Hmm.
Like something happened that his heart stopped,
Right.
and he was rushed into emergency. Maybe he was already on the operating table. I can't remember, but he actually died, heart stopped and everything.
Right.
And he said he began to leave his body. And he said, I saw what people have described who die and come back to life
Hmm.
or brought back.
Right.
He said, I felt like I was floating up through the ceiling, and I could see through the ceiling down into the emergency room, and I could see the doctors and nurses rushing around my body trying to
Right.
bring me back to life. And I heard everything they said, and then they got out the electric paddles,
Right.
And he said they shocked me, my chest. And he said, I got pulled back down into my body. I slammed into my body. He said it felt kind of like an elevator falling down the elevator shaft.
Right.
He said it was really jarring.
Mhm.
Um, and he said but the whole floating up through the ceiling and seeing everything that was going on, he said that was not the most remarkable thing. Oh, and he did say later, when I woke up and the doctor came to visit me
Right.
in the recovery area, he said, I saw everything you were doing. And the doctor said, oh, you probably were having some dream or hallucination or something. And the guy said, no, you said this, and the nurse said this, and there were this many nurses, and there was you, and there was and then this happened, and the doctor said, wow, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what we said. That's
Right.
exactly what we did. And but the guy told me, my client told me, all of that wasn't the most remarkable thing. He said the most remarkable thing was while I was floating up there through the ceiling, looking back, oh, and he felt a warm light and lots of love and peace
Right.
and contentment. He said, while I was looking back, I could see something very thick connecting all of the people. There was something between all of the people, connecting all of the people.
Mhm.
And it was so thick, whatever it was connecting the people, that he could barely tell where one person started, where one person stopped and the other person started.
Started. Right.
And he said it was then that I realized we are all one thing.
Collective, having a
We're not,
common experience. Right.
yeah, we're not separate things. We just
Right.
have the illusion that we're separate things.
So, just to remark on this, because last episode on this past Monday, I had my dear friend Arthur, who had exactly the same experience. I
Huh.
personally had that same experience. So, what
Wow.
is happening from my understanding, it is that once you pass on, your soul travels through other dimensions that we cannot perceive or basically see around us in 3D world that we are living in. Once you get to that higher dimension, what you're seeing is basically our bodies are not present. We are just energy vibrating at very high frequency, which is the basics of string theory that has been
Oh yeah.
finally accepted as the standard model in physics. So
Yeah.
it's just a collection of energy. And once you see it in an energy form in higher dimension, that you cannot unsee it. Although you won't be able to perceive it once you come back because your sensory motions do not let you register those things. But
Yeah.
now you're aware. And I think near-death experiences are given to chosen few to bring them to a higher consciousness so that they can fulfill a purpose. That's what we were discussing last time, actually.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
how did it mess him up? Because it messes you up for Gary.
Oh, so for him, it did not mess him up. It actually, he came in to work with me on something unrelated to that.
Right.
He came in to work on an interpersonal something.
Right.
Hard to remember because it's 30 years ago now. But the way that it affected him was it gave him this overwhelming, radiant compassion and love,
Mhm.
because it ended for him the illusion that we're separate and alone.
Right.
That ended.
And this is
So
why we created this podcast. The whole reason I call it Rebels United. You're not alone. Because nowadays, more and more people feeling more and more alone and secluded. And it's becoming part of the programming to keep us that way. And the only way I thought I can start to make a change is to start making people talk to each other, see what the reality is and how to get past it. And that will not happen till we start breaking our bubbles and start to interact again.
oh yeah. And that's great. That's a great intention or mission statement. And that's probably
Thank
one
you.
of the things I love about dance is I go every single week, sometimes usually twice or 3 times a
Wow.
week to
Wow.
dance. And it's a connection with other people. I think people don't realize how important it is to belong to a group, any group that
Right.
meet on the regular, like
Hmm.
weekly, even
Hmm.
for introverts and people who really enjoy being alone. It's still important to go out and connect at least once or twice a week.
Definitely. That's why I'm a big gym goer. I cannot
Oh.
go a single day until it's a rest day to not go to the gym. So well, let's talk about dancing, and it will segue into what I really wanted to talk to you about. My experience, I was in Phoenix for over 7 years. My experience with dancing, especially, I tried different kind of places, like the one in downtown where people actually dance, and then all the clubs and all that kind of environment, and then swing dancing.
Oh,
Very few places I found where people were actually able to come together and dance. Most of the time, it was just awkward,
oh, really? Um, you're
or it
talking,
was overtly sexual. There was only two things I was noticing.
okay. Um, I guess for if somebody goes club dancing, it's really good to go with friends.
Right.
And women especially like to dance together. And if a man is comfortable doing so, which is takes great courage, a man can walk up and ask a woman to dance, and it doesn't have to be overtly sexual.
No,
Um,
but for me, it was not right. So for me, I was
yeah.
that guy who will make everybody dance. I
Mhm.
did not, and that's the thing I was bringing every time, and that's why people at all these clubs started to like me so much because I was the guy who will start dancing and make everybody else dance. All they had to do is give me free booze, and I drank for free for so long. It's not even funny.
That it does help sometimes for a person to have a drink or two drinks. Yeah, sometimes that helps. And then there's dance studios
Hmm.
where most of the dance studios have classes, group lessons
Right.
where you can go alone and you you know the women are in a circle facing out and the men are inside the circle. Yeah, sorry, women. It could be either one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In
I
a circle
understand.
facing in.
Right.
Women standing in front of them facing the man. And the teacher shows a move and the students try that move. And then the instructor says, good
Have you
job. Yeah, step to your left.
have you tried salsa or tango?
Yeah, I love salsa. And actually, my biggest trophy is the tango trophy. Even
Oh,
though it sounds
wow.
funny, it's the biggest. I can show you it. Can you see through the Zoom right now?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So also, I do acting for fun. So that's one of my fun things to do. So I have one giant trophy, and that is here's my dog come to say hello. Um,
Wonderful.
whoa, buddy, whoa, whoa,
Wow.
whoa, whoa, buddy. That tall one right there with the lady with the wings.
Right.
Hey, buddy, stop it. And then that is, let me see. Uh, that's the one that looks like an Emmy. That's acting.
Nice. Nice. Well, Phoenix Film Festival?
Yeah, Phoenix Film Festival. There was an acting
Nice.
showcase of
Nice.
a uh, a showcase, and there were judges and voted on top actor. This is a this shiny crystal one with the star on top. I was in the Dancing with the Stars Kidney
Ooh,
Foundation. Yeah,
wow.
the Dancing with the Stars Kidney Foundation dance competition um, fundraiser.
Hmm.
That was right before the pandemic.
Right.
So those are some of my trophies right there. Dancing and acting
Nice.
trophies. One's
You
for a documentary I made.
like we never got to work together, but when I was in Phoenix, I did the Ohm's Law. And I had casted at least 55 actors in that.
Oh, wait, you shot what? The old what?
The Ohm's Law, I was trying to do pilot episodes for a TV series. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had like at least 55 actors from Phoenix working on that project.
That's
Unfortunately, we
cool.
never got to meet.
That's very cool. I used to do more acting, but the last I don't know how many years my counseling practice got really big. So
Right.
I I I meet my needs for my acting bug by going to a Thursday night improv class. So
Oh, nice.
I go to dancing a couple of times a week and improv acting class once a week.
Who you're training with on improv?
Do you know the Deering Acting Studio?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Deering's, they are a wonderful
Yeah.
couple.
Matt, there's Brian
Yes. Yeah.
Sweeney. It's the friendliest.
Right.
It's one of the friendliest acting studios in the valley. I've been to a few different acting studios. There's a lot of good people, but Matt Matt Deering really knows how to build a community, and
Mhm.
Brian's usually teaching us.
Right.
But are you? Where are you? Oh, you're in California now.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm a Dwayne Daniels fan. I've also gone through a lot of people, and they were all wonderful. but Dwayne just spoke to me in ways that others couldn't, you know.
Oh yeah,
He
it's good.
he can hone down on where I'm have struggling and
Mhm.
exactly tell me what to do to get over the hump, but not to solve the problem. Problem solving was still part of my challenge, but
Yeah,
a technique that could bring you out of it. Oh man, that dude knows how to do it.
that's so cool. When you can find a acting coach who really knows how to um, give you what you need to
Right.
grow as an actor. Before I started going to Deering a number of years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I
Mm-hmm.
went through Kevin Phipps'
Phillips, yeah,
minor class,
Meisner.
and that helped me a lot. That was I before that Meisner class, and that's a year and a half. It's every week for a year and a half.
Right, right.
It was a really great class. Um, Before that class, I did not know how to get true emotion whenever I needed it. Like it was
Mm.
hit or miss. It was
Right,
random. You get a
right.
real emotion. And then during that Meiser class, I started getting the hang of being able to get a real emotion. And um, and then after a number of years, I realized, wow, this is there's great things about Meisner, and there's also very heavy. It's like you try to stay in the character
Mm-hmm.
for the entire day, even when you're, having your lunch break or
Right.
there's a break in the shooting and you're still, because I tend to play, because I'm kind of cheery and sunshiny and positive, I tend to play really dark, weird characters.
Don't we all love to play that, right? That's what that's like anybody who wants to act, that's like their main. Very few will be like, "Oh, I want to be a comedy star,"
Yeah,
you know.
I
We
don't know.
all
I do like comedy too, but it seems like the films, the indie films, the local indie films I've done, I'm mostly a pretty dark, twisted character.
they are the most fun. Comedy is fun too, but yeah, I know. So, okay, I do want to move on to some dark stuff since we are there. Um, let's start with your impression of the world and our current state of the society,
Oh, yeah. It's
because you're dealing with a lot of hurt people on regular basis, people
yes.
those who are struggling. So you will have a better understanding and outlook on this than any of us.
Well, I mean, maybe or to a degree, but yeah, I probably get to talk to more people on a very intimate level
Hmm.
about their personal struggles. Yeah, counselors probably get to do that more than an ordinary regular human being. Um, so on the one hand, the human plight is similar throughout the ages. So after 3 decades of getting to sit with people and talk about the deepest, darkest things in their lives, one of the constant themes is loneliness. I
Hmm.
think people have always felt a lot of loneliness um, before phones and text messaging and personal computers. People were definitely very cut off
Right.
from one another because we had telephones and face to face in person, and that's what we had, and that's all we had. So it was easy to get cut off then. And now we have computers and social media and phones and FaceTime and text messaging. And um, people are more aware of how cut off they are if they don't have deep relationships.
Right.
So, because they're like, no one's texted me all day. So that's similar at one level. And on the other hand, one of the things that we have going on now
Hmm.
politically and in our psyche and around the globe
Right.
is that polarization of the truth or the liberal and the conservative, and it's more polarized now since there have been some quote unquote strongmen
Hmm.
who normalized um, hate speech, for instance, against minorities, or like I'm just thinking of every now and then something just terrible would pop up in my feed, like my Facebook feed, like a video of some person running up and kicking,
Yeah.
running up, jumping, and kicking and knocking down
Hmm.
an elderly, frail Chinese man on the sidewalk in New York.
Yeah.
So things like that got normalized. But so on the one hand, that's very sad and painful. But on the other hand, it is showing us more now we're now more able to see people who might have hidden in the woodwork. So it's
Right.
like when it rains, the termites come out of the
Right.
woodwork. And now, because of that normalization of that type of hate, we can actually see the people who would perpetrate that kind of hate on other people. So that's good because now we can talk about it. Now, to me, the answer or the solution is always the same. Because every generation, in every decade, in every year,
Mm-hmm.
the people will say there is a crisis happening. People
Right.
have
It's
always said that.
nonstop. Yep.
Yeah, everybody says every year there's
They
a
just
crisis.
keep building them, even if there is none.
Right. Well, and also spiritually speaking, on the one hand, it's part of our spiritual work
Mm-hmm.
to not judge. I mean, for me anyway, I'm sure there are spiritual people who that is a part of their natural philosophy to
Mm-hmm.
judge.
Right.
But my own personal philosophy is to do my best to not judge. And
Oh,
I always say, don't judge the judgers and don't hate the haters. What?
right. And in your
Yeah.
profession, you cannot work if you if you're critical of people, right? Because
Yes.
you won't be able to empathize and associate with them.
Exactly, exactly. People used to say to me when I was a young counselor, I worked at a couple of different clinics while I was building my private practice. And
Mm-hmm.
for a while, I worked at a sex offender clinic and I worked
Ooh,
with rapists and pedophiles. And I also worked with the victims and I ran the sex offender group and did individual sessions with
right.
them. And people would say to me sometimes, how can you work with those people? I mean, how do you work with those
Mhm.
people? And I would always say that very thing. Well, I don't have judgment on them. And um, if if you're a counselor and you're in judgment, you just like you said, Kelky, you will not be able to help a
Right.
client. You're sitting
Right.
in judgment of them. But so the cure, as I was saying, is the same. It's always the same. Every year that I've ever pondered this question, how do we heal this divide? And to me, it always looks like we must start from when humans are very, very young
Mm-hmm.
and in kindergarten, starting from kindergarten, and every year after that, in school and in all the parent teacher meetings, we teach the kids and the parents, the adults, healthy communication,
Mm-hmm.
healthy conflict resolution, how to connect. We teach non-judgment. I mean, those things have to be classes that are as important and maybe even more important than reading, writing, arithmetic.
True to an extent, and also taxation, how to take care of your house, how to fix stuff, all the good stuff we
Yeah.
used to have in our education system, it has been just ripped apart and made into a grooming session kind of a place where they're just trying to teach these young people how to be more shitty.
Yeah. Yes. Um, yeah, a lot of, and even just a kid sitting in the back seat of the car
Hmm.
and mom or dad trying to drive through traffic and getting cut off and cussing somebody out. You know, the windows are rolled up, so
Right.
the other driver can't hear them, but the kids are
Kids
seeing
are. Yep.
mom or dad react in a certain way that is disrespectful. And yeah, school has become about school doesn't work.
Right.
In fact, Kalki, I have a video on my YouTube channel called oh god, school sucks or why school sucks or something like that. And I talk about all the problems and kids are good at playing and having fun. So why aren't we using that
Right.
to teach them? Why do we make school so boring? That's a horrible mistake.
I don't understand. I don't have an answer, and we cannot even get to it because right now we have to fight to save our kids and protect them. The way things are looking, at least from where I'm standing, a lot of conspiracy theories like Epstein Island was a big
Oh,
conspiracy theory when I first heard of it. Everybody was just laughing at it, and now it's a big truth. And now
oh yeah.
everything I hear about is getting wrapped into that one narrative, and it's heartbreaking. I cannot even understand how people like these even allowed to, like, where's the list? I just don't know, right? But my bigger question is, since you have worked with these kind of offenders, why
Mhm.
do they do it? Is it some kind of pain in their past that triggered this kind of brutality, or is it just they are mentally that sick? I just like, there are so many possibilities and they drive me crazy.
Yeah. So it is that, like a mental illness, and there are things at work woven into the culture, into the fabric of our culture, not just in the U.S. but all over the globe, that promotes rape culture thinking.
Wow.
So for some of those sex offenders, yes, they were brutalized growing up, or they were abused, or their sister was incested and it never happened to them, but they lived in that um, environment. So sometimes it is the trauma they grew up with, and not even sometimes, I would say almost all the time, it's the trauma they grew up with, affects them in that way. Uh,
Hmm.
so there's a big part of it, I would say, uh, maybe not the majority of those guys, about half of those guys, it's
Okay.
trauma they grew up with. The other half of those guys, the sex offenders, it is simply a natural way of thinking in our culture. There's like the expression, boys will be boys,
All right.
or uh, like, do you know the recording, the very famous recording where Trump is talking to
Yeah. So the
Bush?
model.
I can't
Yeah.
remember his name. Yeah, the Bush.
Yeah.
And what's really funny to me is whenever some if a news station replays that, they bleep it out, and they play him saying, "I can just grab these women by the beep."
All right.
It's that is it's like, why are you? Or if they're talking about it, they say, "Grab the woman down there," or
Hmm.
grab. They don't say, if they're, news people are talking about it, they don't say that Trump was talking about grabbing a woman by her vagina.
All right.
They don't say that word,
All right.
vagina, and they bleep out, that.
Because they don't want to deal with the ugliness. I have not
Yeah,
seen any honest reporter for a very long time who is willing to deal with the ugliness, other than Tucker Carlson now. Once he left Fox, he has become a different guy. And I never liked him before, but now I'm starting to respect this guy. He's going where nobody has gone.
oh, okay. I don't know if I've ever actually seen his show then or now. So
Mhm.
the other reason why there's so much rape, so approximately, I think the statistics on the RAIN website, which
Mhm.
has all of the statistics you could possibly ever want to look for
Right.
regarding sexual assault, says that something like, I can't remember, 68% women are going to be sexually assaulted by the time they're 15 years old.
Oh,
Yeah. And I did my own research once. I posted on Facebook and I asked the question, how old were you the first time you were sexually assaulted? And
mhm.
mostly women, but some men, a handful of men too.
Right.
The average age that I found on my own personal little informal poll there was age 12, that most people were sexually
All
assaulted
right.
by age 12.
Yeah.
But so one of the problems is how we teach and think of sexuality. Like for boys in the locker room when they're young, in America anyway,
Hmm.
they talk about it like it's a conquest. And for girls, and nowadays
Right.
anyway, um, it's their virginity is something that they're embarrassed about or ashamed of, and they want to get rid of it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So we don't think of sexuality as a sacred connection, like in the tantra, like in tantric
Right.
sex,
Right.
which is sacred sexuality. So it's very sad the way we teach it and think of it.
I
Um,
don't think we are teaching it anymore. And oh, well, actually, now it is
oh yeah,
changing and now it's becoming more pervasive instead of actually teaching what it should be about, which
right.
is very counterproductive.
Like too many parents were getting upset about how it was being taught, and so
Right.
they just stopped. Is that what happened?
I frankly, I do not have an answer. I think everything has become a weapon nowadays. There's
Yeah,
nothing sacred left.
yeah, like
There's no
that.
honest leader left. There's no honest kings left. This world has become as evil as it could have been.
Um, I I'm probably not as pessimistic as you because I know a lot of good people.
Right. No,
But
I'm not saying people are bad. I'm saying people in power are bad. Good
I
people do not want to fight. Good people, they do not want to stand up. They don't want to do the hard work. They just want to be left alone and enjoy their life. And bad people are those who are going after power because then they get to abuse it. That's my understanding at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely less pessimistic than you there because I see a lot of good leaders. But there was something you said. Uh, oh, I I do see even sexual assault
Hmm.
as a part of a spiritual path. I know it was for me.
Oh, well, you are also a survivor in that sense?
Yeah. So when I was 12, I was raped by the leader of our neighborhood gang. He was 15 or 16, and it changed me utterly and completely. And I went from a happy, buoyant, open hearted little girl to I went dark and withdrawn. And um, I found people who could get booze and pot. And
Right.
I
Drown your
just
sorrow.
yeah, I stayed as drunk and stoned as I could, all the way up until I was not, well, I did, I backed off on everything when I was almost finished with my undergrad. So I was probably 19, but from
Hmm.
age 12 to 19, I was very checked out. And what's crazy is none of the adults in my life said, "Hey, what happened to you? Did something happen to you?" And I was afraid. So this is a part of rape culture too. I was
Hmm.
afraid to, I was afraid to tell my mother what happened because I was afraid I had done something wrong and I would get in trouble.
Oh my God.
Because I think little girls are
Yeah.
raised to feel more responsible
Hmm.
for everything and
Yeah.
people around them. So yeah, I figured, and also my mom was a yeller and an occasional hitter, and not a great communicator. So we didn't really have communication in my household where I was growing up. There was yelling and screaming and not speaking, door slamming
So
and not.
that put you on this path, and now it is benefiting a lot of people
Yes.
because you
So
figured out what the answer is.
right. So spiritually speaking, and I was in denial that I had even been raped because of our culture, because
Right.
of how rape culture works. I was afraid if I brought it up, I would get in trouble because I did something wrong. And that's the reason why most people won't report their sexual assault, is because of victim blaming and slut shaming.
Right.
And I have so many clients, and I've just shot a documentary that's in the editing process right now called hashtag say his name, because I feel like the Me Too movement got us so far.
Yep.
And then it was like, okay, so
That
what did that
that
do?
was my post, right? Me Too disappeared. Now
Oh
it's
yeah,
all
I saw
LGBTQ
that.
plus.
There's a reason. There's a reason for that, right? Kind of. So the Me Too movement started, and then everybody posted hashtag Me Too,
Hmm.
and then it was like, okay, yeah. So what? So practically everybody and their mother was sexually assaulted. So what? So to me, that was like only a first step. I said, what we have to have now is um,
Say
hashtag
his
say
name.
it.
Yeah.
And almost every person I've ever talked to, whether they were a counseling client or just somebody who
Hmm.
was answering a Facebook post on my page, said they didn't want to um, publish the name of their sex offender because they were afraid they would get sued
Right.
because the sex offender threatened to sue them for slander. And I've always said, well, it's not slander if it's true. And right around
No,
that
but then
same
you
time,
have to have the proof, and if time has passed, then you won't be able to prove anything, and then yes, you're
well,
liable to big lawsuits.
that's another thing that promotes rape culture is the
Hmm.
statutes of limitation. So
Right.
most people cannot disclose their sexual assault. They don't have the internal balance and courage that it takes to report a sexual assault. It can take people decades. So in fact, I was in denial that I was raped until I was 30. And
So
then I had an awakening experience.
I don't want to go in details, those going to be uncomfortable, but
No, it's
did
not
you
uncomfortable
ever,
for me at all.
did you ever felt that you instigated it, or was he the aggressor in perpetuity and he was just, you happened to be the victim?
I felt like it was my fault because I was a lonely kid. My parents divorced when I was 10.
Mm.
And I lived with my mother and my older sister, and I came home to an empty house every day after school. And I started following my big sister to this park where these bad kids hung out and drank and smoked pot. And this boy hung out
Mm-hmm.
there. And this rape happened on a day that it's not uncomfortable at all for me to talk about it. This rape happened on a day when my sister wasn't there, and I don't know where she was. I can't remember. And I was lonely, always lonely. And so I went down to the park, and they were there, and I wanted acceptance. And this boy got me to
Feel
take
good. Yeah.
a handful of pills. He got me to
Oh.
take a handful of pills. First, they took me to the local pedophile who was the drug dealer.
Oh.
Yeah. And when my head started flopping around, the boys, the bad boys, got up and
Mm-hmm.
left, and the pedophile tried to molest me. He got his hands up my shirt, and I pushed him off, and I ran out of his apartment and through the park to go home. And
Right.
now it was dark, and these boys caught me, and I kicked and bit and fought my way free, and was halfway up the hill to the street, and the this head guy, Scott Kimball, he hit me from behind, knocked me down, and fought me for my clothing and raped me. So I thought it was my fault because I went to the park and I took the pills.
You gave them the opportunity to. Which is, oh, being a man, I freaking hate myself sometimes. No, let me explain why. Because I I have some experiences too, and I always felt like it's my fault that I did not put these people in their place. Because we as men we should learn to be there to protect the vulnerable, the weak, or in any sense where there's injustice. But I am starting to realize that
Mhm.
majority of men are not even capable of doing that. And I have to keep myself in check because I have rage issues. So once I lose it really hard. So it's like why most of the aggressors have to be the man, which makes me very ashamed of being a man. But at the same time, it puts me in places where I want to hurt others. You know what I'm trying to say?
I know exactly what you're trying to say. That's really lovely. And the obviously it's not always the perpetrator isn't always
Not
a man.
always, right?
It's
But
usually
majority wise, yes.
usually a man. And that's lovely that you want to be a protector. That's
But I
beautiful.
cannot, right? If I know today that somebody is a pedophile, I cannot even do anything about it, and it kills me inside
Why can't you do anything about it?
because I have lost all faith in this judicial system because I'm going through a lot
Oh,
of stuff, right? I
yeah,
have seen what they do, and they will always protect these assholes instead of
yeah,
helping you doing the right
yeah.
thing. It has gone to that point,
That is one of the other things that perpetuates rape culture. That's one of
right?
the main things I talk about in my documentary in hashtag say his name.
Yeah.
We have to change rape culture thinking that women are subservient and that they're there for men's pleasure, and that that's the other reason. So some men that are perpetrators do have that kind of trauma in their childhood, and others are simply a product of this rape culture thinking, and they have this machismo and they want it and they're going to take it. And
Mhm.
if their wife or their girlfriend's not in the mood, they're going to pressure her or pout or
Well,
bellow and scream and cry and throw a tantrum until the woman finally gives in and gives him what he wants, even though she's not really ready.
but at the same time, so there's other side of it, which I really want to have perspective on. Me being a man, I am very easily triggered in both senses, like anger wise plus sexually. I'm very heavily testosterone driven as a man. So my mental need, like I will have a good time with somebody and it's phenomenal, but within 3 hours, my need to have the next, it's an addiction in ways. And it's not like I cannot keep it under control. Of course I can and I have to, but at the same time, I can keep it under control. When I think from a perspective of a boy or a man, especially a boy, who who is just still figuring it out, they don't even know what it actually means, right? And
Right.
hormones are driving you insane. I have
Mhm.
gone through that.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes
Right. It's
when
natural.
the animal takes over your brain, you cannot even process information any further
Mhm.
because your only desire or only fix or the only thing in your brain is I need to get through this. I have to get it,
Yeah,
or it's
get
gonna
laid.
last. Yeah. So
Right.
that side of, like, I'm not saying women are at fault, but what has happened? It happened to me personally too. I will say I was led on, but
Mhm.
then they just wanted attention. You know what I
Uh,
mean? And
yeah.
that drives you crazy because I am not asking for your attention. You're asking for my attention.
Mhm.
And you're giving me the wrong signals that is triggering me in the wrong way. I have
Uh,
to be the one to keep myself under control. And me being me, I'm way too much crazy when it comes to power, right? So you're just asking for trouble. If I was not this much in balance because I have found my center point, I
mhm.
would be that aggressive. I
Uh-huh.
feel that way. I have very much controlled myself my whole life.
What part of the problem is we don't teach sacred sexuality. What we learn
Mhm.
and what most cultures learn is just one and a half of the way to have sex. We know,
There's
so
no teaching.
there
What we are
is,
learning is from freaking porn nowadays. We
right.
don't even know
So
what the real, right?
there's masculine oriented sex, which is goal oriented sex, and the goal is the orgasm,
Right.
which is great and fun and exciting. Like animal sex, it's
Right.
wonderful. And women can do that in the beginning of their relationship, or if they're like a free dancer, if
Right.
they're, if they have a lover or two and they're, enjoying men.
Hmm.
But after a while in a relationship, a woman starts needing feminine grounded sex as well. And feminine grounded sex is not goal oriented, it's purpose oriented and has
Wow.
no beginning and no end. And the purpose is depth of connection. So I see tons of couples, practically every couple I've ever worked with, heterosexual couple, pretty soon, within the first 6 months or a year of living together or being married, the woman starts losing her sex drive. And the reason is, and I got invited to do a TED talk on this, Fountain Hills TED Talks,
Wow.
which,
Nice.
well, it was right before the pandemic. And I, studied, there's a lot of preparation to do a TED talk. And sadly, it kept on getting put off because of the pandemic.
Right.
And then finally they decided, okay, we're doing this on Zoom. And then the curator bloody well didn't record the I was so mad. And I thought, screw it, I'm just going to record this myself. So on my YouTube channel, you
Hmm.
can, go on YouTube and search Jane Fendelman MC Sex Talk or TED Talk, and you'll get to see it because I talk about the 3 reasons women start to distance themselves sexually from their man. And one is connection, and that
Hmm.
includes healthy communication. The second thing is old wounds
Right.
that
Yeah.
woman has from that man or from her past. And the third one is masculine oriented sex that eventually kills the
Yep.
sex drive
Yep.
for a woman.
I can
So
understand.
men usually have to increase their non-sexual touching for their woman times 20 or 50 or 100. They have to increase non-sexual touching because what
Right.
worked on her in the beginning isn't going to work on her anymore. You can't just go from giving her a wink to, having intercourse. There's
Yes.
so part of that
There's
is
a
that
build up. There's
the
a
other there's
right
foreplay, there's build up, but
foreplay.
also for sex drive, because part of the beauty of men is God made them with this sex hormone shot into their animal brain,
Right.
right back here, their limbic brain, every few moments. So they would have an overwhelming urge to enter the gates of heaven to know the creative power that is the God power, the
Right.
creative power, the power that creates human beings.
Right. That is the most beautiful thing. And I envy women because they get to have an experience which is, as I have heard, because I don't have personal experience, 100 times, sometimes 1,000 times better than what we get to have. And that's why we are triggered so quickly again, because our experience was very shitty. No matter how great it is, it's not gonna match how great it was for you guys.
Yes, but if a man decides, yeah, I want to learn the tantra, I want to learn tantric sex,
Right.
and I teach tantra too. I
Right.
teach tantric sex. A man can learn how to have a feminine full body orgasm, which starts in the crotch area but radiates outward and floods through the body and can go on for 15 minutes or a half an hour or an hour, 3 hours or a day
What?
or 3 days, just
No.
alive.
I
And
am Indian. How do I not know about this?
it's not hard too. It's easy. It's a breathing technique, and you move your body with your breath, and it's easy. I've taught it on the radio before.
Wow. Wow. I guess my life is about to change. I'm glad I'm having this conversation.
We got to do another show just on that. It's a vast subject.
Sure, I'm always down for that. No doubt there. But wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so, but back to right now, because it's more focused on the seriousness of it. How do we teach men to respect and understand that it cannot always be a conquest?
Yeah, boy, that is so important. It has to start from very young. We have to change the way we think in our culture and around the world. It can't be one way for women in one culture where their husband can light them on fire if they think another man looked at her. I mean,
That's not happening. I hope that's not happening anymore. I haven't seen that many reports. Like it used to be part of Indian culture too, but it has completely stopped. Now it's more sadistic in other ways, but not like that. And I don't
yeah.
think we do want different traditions because that's the beauty of the world. We come together when we are so different. That's
Mhm.
what I love about, you know, you need variety. People should be allowed to go to places that aligns more towards their mentality. I will give you an example. I was once having a conversation with a woman who actually loved hijabs. In her in
Yeah.
her worldview, hijabs made more sense than what other people are preaching because her opinion was once you let go of that culture, it's going to be nakedness. People will start forgetting what respect and honor should be. And I now I am starting to see her point that I see how brazen we have become in our actions ever since we have started, especially the places where they've enforced to get away from each other. I'm not saying it's a good tradition. It should be based on what you are comfortable with. But at the same time, I do see the other side of it too now.
Right. And I do understand what you're saying and how this woman felt and the beauty of different traditions. The thing that would have to change for there to be less sexual assault in the world and help men change would be that women have the exact same rights as men.
Yes, completely. No doubt there. It has.
So it would be a woman wearing a hijab because it gives her joy to do so and not
Right.
because her husband or her father is requiring her to.
No, yeah, completely. If you see
So
the point, then only you should be forced to do something. Or at least you come to terms and you learn that yes, there is a point there. Not should
yeah,
be it should not be grooming. It's the same crap, right? It's a different
right.
kind of grooming.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go back to it's a really wonderful. Oh gosh, I have just enough time to tell you this
Okay,
before I go.
wonderful.
When I say I experience now looking back, my sexual assault was a part of my spiritual path.
Hmm.
And I always say I did not become a counselor or a compassionate person in spite of being raped. I became a counselor and a compassionate person because of being raped. Because that sexual assault it put such a dark bend in my
Hmm.
river. I
Yeah.
had it in such a dark trajectory that I probably ended up getting into every terrible thing a person could get into. And so I don't think I've ever had a client that was going through something that I didn't understand and could relate to.
Mm.
And when I say, I'm posting his name. Here's his name, Scott Kimball.
Right.
And I've tried to find him, and I don't know where he is. He's disappeared. I've even asked
Hopefully
him.
in jail, tortured
Well,
and
here's
killed.
the thing. Here's the magical thing.
Right.
I even called the St. Louis police to get them to help me see if I could locate him. This was a number of years ago. Anyway, so I did this post a few years back,
Hmm.
and I said, post the name of your predator, the person
Right.
who assaulted you. And people were scared to. And I said, okay, I'll start. Here's mine, Scott Kimball. I can't find him. If I could find him, I would report him, blah, blah, blah. And a lady contacts me through private messenger who I don't even really know. And she goes, is this him? I think you were spelling his name wrong. It's Kimble. And I said, yeah, that's him. And he's an old man with a breathing, with the breathing canister and tubes.
Deserved every single bit of it.
And yeah. And so I contacted him, and I just reminded him in a non-judgmental way, here's who I am, here's what you did, here's how it affected my life.
Wow.
And so first
You
step
faced
for
it.
me,
Right.
I said to him, I would really like you to apologize to me and also to apologize to my friends and family, because you took me away from them.
All right.
And I changed overnight and no one knew why. And then I just got in a lot of trouble. And that was, for me, that was my first step. Apologize, please apologize. And I didn't hear back from him. And then I realized he blocked me. And then I reached out to friends, a few friends and family members of his. And his son was somewhere in his late 30s, and there were grandchildren. And anyway, the son said to me, and this was on private messenger, the son said to me, don't post my father's name or Facebook page link again. He said, you're lying. And if you post about him again, I'm going to sue you for slander.
Wow.
And I was biding my time, and I was going to, and still will, go back and say, okay, I'm ready for you to sue me, because I found out that as soon as this woman located him, I called the St. Louis police and I said, I want to
File a complaint.
bring charges. I want to bring charges
Right.
against this guy. And the cop was really nice. He said, I'm so sorry. He called me back. He said, I'm so sorry. I have recordings of all of this. It's in my documentary. He said, I'm so sorry. The statute of limitations ran out and you can't. And I had like one or two tears about that. And that was it. And I said, okay, thank you for letting me know. And then within 1 month, this all happened within about a month and a half, 2 months time. The sex offender, Scott Kimball, he died of COVID.
I hope he was on ventilator and freaking the most painful that he could have.
Yeah, maybe. So if he had apologized, I would have been able to say back to him, thank you. And can you forgive me? I apologize to you. Because sometimes people would say to me, why do you want to post his name? Why do you want to be vindictive?
All right.
And I would always respond, I don't feel vindictive in the least. In fact, ultimately, it's not for me to forgive him. It's for him to forgive me. Because I have a spiritual belief that maybe it was like this. Maybe my soul was up in the heavens, and my soul had a knowing that for me to become great and serve many people, thousands of people, I was going to have to go through this experience, this rape.
I know it's an ugly experience, but yes, I feel the same way in a lot of ways.
And maybe
It
it's
opens you up. It gives you a higher purpose. It changes you, and it gives you understanding that I don't think most of the people will ever develop.
Yeah. And so maybe it's like, maybe my soul said to all the souls there, hey, everyone, I have to have this experience down on earth, and wondering if someone would volunteer to attack me and assault me in this way. And it's going to be really hard for you because you're going to forget, and I'm going to forget that we made this agreement. And it'll be really sad and hard for you because even though I need this experience to become great, I will ultimately, become this person who gets to radiate love and lift up other people and help them heal from similar experiences. But you won't remember that we made this agreement, and you'll think for the rest of your life that you're just this rapist. Would somebody do that for me? I know it's a big favor. And maybe no one responded. And then maybe way in the back, one soul raised its hand and said, I will do that for you. I will do that for you. I would be willing to make that sacrifice for you to be able to become great, to fulfill your destiny as a human down on earth. And
I respect that. I respect that. I think you are onto something. And I have two different points on that. But before that, I would say sometimes the most beautiful flower, they grow in the nastiest place. And this is a perfect example of that.
yeah,
If you know Jordan Peterson, do you happen to know Jordan Peterson?
I don't know.
He's
Nope.
an amazing spokesperson at this point, psychologist from Canada. And he said, which really vibed with me, is to unlock your higher self, because genetically you do carry some of your previous birth experiences in your DNA, but you
Yeah.
don't remember it. The only
Oh,
way you unlock your higher self and your capabilities is by suffering. There is no easy path.
wow. I can believe that. Yep. I mean, sometimes there's no other way.
But I think we you have other commitments and we are coming to and
Yes. But it's been wonderful talking with you, Kalki. I love talking about this stuff.
definitely the pleasure is all mine, and it has been riveting. It has been amazing. I'm very excited to have this. And before I close the show, I would give you 30 seconds if you want to do your closing remarks for our listeners.
You mean like if people want to contact me or?
Yeah, anything you want to say to them.
Oh,
Your YouTube, your plugs, YouTube channel, anything that you
oh,
want to
got
bring
it.
up.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks. I want to thank everybody for listening. And it's such a vast and amazing topic, everything that we were talking about. And I want to thank you, Kalki, for doing these podcasts that you've been doing. I'm sure they're helping people at an amazing level. And if people want to reach me, they can always text me. Well, boy, people probably don't have a pen. Maybe they do. 602-881-1991. And I do individual couples and child family therapy. And it is always my pleasure to serve and assist. And oh, I want to say that no matter how alone a person might feel in any given moment, no matter how alone you may feel, you are never truly alone. We are all connected, all connected.
Wow.
And and also reach out. If you're feeling alone, even though it's the hardest time to do so, reach out, reach out. And if you reach out to somebody who doesn't respond, reach out to someone else. And if they don't respond, just keep on reaching out, because we humans, we do need each other, because we do get lonely.
No doubt, no doubt. And my closing will be I was reaching out to you, trying to understand something that I could not understand, and we couldn't even get to it because there's so much to talk about,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
see this is a great example. I reached out to her because I just had a feeling she is important and she can give us something that other are not able to bring forward. And now you have heard her story. This is a beautiful soul. You could not have asked, I could not have asked for a better person to talk to.
Thank
And
you.
I really, really thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I hope we can do more sessions. And I
I
hope one
love
of these
this.
days you can drop on Monday at 3 and meet rest of the team. It's growing slowly, but it's growing. And we all love being there. That's the objective, is to be participating in something that we love and open up. And with that, I want to thank Jane for her time today. I hope you all enjoy it. It's longer than our usual sessions, but it's a one worth listening to.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.